So I've been following this story since it came out, and I just kind of sat on it for a while, and I still can't wrap my mind around it. And as always with situations like these, there are so many questions and not enough answers. How did this go on for so long? How did no one notice? Those are just some of the questions everybody's asking. But if you haven't heard about it, let me just show you what I'm talking about, and then I'll come back with my thoughts about it.
Our other top story tonight, the mother charged in that horrible case of child neglect in a Pontiac isn't going to be leaving the Oakland County lockup anytime soon.
No, and that's because her arraignment today, Kelly Bryant was given a $250 million cash bond. Let's go now to Victor Williams live for us in Pontiac tonight following all this. Victor, it's rare to see a judge set a bond that high in a child abuse case.
Yeah, Ty, it's totally rare that we see a bond amount this high, but we think that the judge definitely proved her point. This is likely something that this defendant may not be able to pay whatsoever.
I'm giving her a $250 million bond. Cash only.
It's going to now take $250 million in cash for 34-year-old Kelly Marie Bryant to get out of jail as she waits to go on trial for the neglect of her 3 children she allegedly left on their own for years.
My first knee-jerk reaction was to deny her bond. I find her a continued danger to the children.
There's no telling just how long it's going to take for crews to clean up the deplorable conditions the kids were living in. We saw several people doing the job today in hazmat suits.
It's just terrible. It's no words. There's no words that I could say for something like this, a condition like this. There's no words I could say.
Prior to the bond amount being named, Bryant's court-appointed attorney tried her best to argue that her client was not a flight risk or a danger to the public.
She's a lifelong resident of the county. She was residing within the city limits of this community.
While Bryant looked off screen for most of the conversation, ultimately it was decided by the judge the main reason for the high bond amount was the chance of Bryant physically getting into contact with the kids while they're with relatives.
I'm concerned that she still may have contact with the family member from the jail with instructions to continue to engage in fear tactics to forbid the children from cooperating with authorities in their continued investigation in this matter.
Now, if Bryant is somehow able to come up with that $250 million bond, she's going to be ordered to wear a tether. She's also not supposed to have any type of contact with those kids at all, let alone any minor. But the cleanup still continues at that home, and we'll have more on what that process is like coming up at 6 p.m. Live in Pontiac, Victor Williams, Local 4.
The more we hear, the more shocked we continue to be.
So that situation is just horrific. Abandoning her children for 4 years, and she had them living in such filthy conditions. The children, they were found inside the home where the toilet and the bathtub were overflowing with human feces. They were sleeping on pizza boxes and a dirty mattress that was on the floor. Garbage was piled up 4 feet high, and their toenails were so long that they couldn't walk properly. And there were rodents found. This is neglect. She failed to properly care for those children, and honestly, I think it was intentional. I mean, there's no excuse that she can try to come up with to try to explain why she decided to do something like that. And from what I read, she portrayed herself in court or prior court filings that she was a struggling single mother who got no help from her children's fathers. And even if that was the case, that isn't an excuse, because there's so many single parents out here struggling every day, just going through a lot of different things. They aren't doing anything like what she did. She walked away from these children and just abandoned them while they were in her care. And she did it for 4 years. And throughout those years, she was out and about on social media, all dolled up, living her best life, laid up at somebody else's house, probably with running water, eating good. But behind the scenes, those children, they were suffering. They were being tortured. And it may not be so much on the physical side, but more on the mental side of things. It's mental torture. That's what I think it is, or it was. It's psychological and emotional torture. And that kind of stuff leaves scars. And I think the worst scars are the ones in the mind. And for these children, they will hopefully heal physically, and hopefully they don't have any diseases and long-term health conditions from all the filth that they were breathing in. But there's no doubt that they will be scarred mentally for the rest of their lives. And for this mother, she is now in jail, and she's being held on a $250 million cash bond. So she isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And I don't even know. Like I said, I mean, there's nothing that she could say now that's going to try to, she's not going to be able to explain her actions. But as a parent, my wife and I, we have 3 children, and I just couldn't imagine doing something like that to them. From what I've learned over the years is that when you have kids, it's a 24-hour job, 365 days a year, nonstop around the clock. They get sick. You got to take them to the doctor. They need clothes. They outgrow their clothes. You got to get them new clothes. You got to give them balanced meals. It's just so many different things that comes, along with that. So you can't sit up there and talk about you just want to walk away or thinking that you'll just up and leave. It's no one else's responsibility to take care of your children. And I think that's why I waited until I was a little bit older to start having children, because I wanted to make sure that I was ready and mature enough to handle such a big responsibility. So all I'm saying is that, you got to think long and hard about it before you decide to have children and before you commit to it, because once the kids are here, there are no takebacks. For this woman, 34-year-old Kelly Bryant, this is going to be an expensive and a hard lesson for her, but she's got to be held accountable. And she's just in the beginning stages of all this unraveling, and she's about to be in for a ride because, this is far from over. But look, nobody's saying that you got to be a perfect parent out here, but at least take care of your kids, take care of their basic needs fully. I mean, I know it can be challenging at times, but that's life. That's what you signed up for when you decide to have children and once kids are involved. And I just wonder, how did she think all of this was going to play out? What was the end game? How long did she think she was going to be able to keep up the lies and the deception? I mean, at some point, something was going to leak out, and it did, So I just wish that it was a lot sooner than later. We're talking about 4 years of those kids just living in such filthy conditions. I mean, it's horrible. So y'all take care, stay safe, and just make better choices. Peace, y'all.